Good day to you. This is Anagalactic bringing you the final sequence in a 2-year project to get to the heart of science, to begin to make progress. Now, I did not think I would be the one to make progress. I was merely trying to get us to the edge when I began 2 years ago. But heaven is merciful, ne? And I am now blessed above all men in science because I actually made it. Now, in the last lecture, I gave a heartfelt presentation. It wasn't really a whole lot of science directly. So let's sum up and see where we're at and see where we're going. I made a couple of promises to myself and to you, and let's just recap that so we know that we're all on the same page now, because this is a turning point. This is a watershed, because in the next lecture, but beginning in this one, I will be presenting to you the secret of the universe, which is a sequence. Of course, it's not just like, well, in 3 sentences or less, sum up the secret of the universe. No, it actually goes on forever. But science is the art of distillate. So, to begin, I have made some very, very serious decisions over the past 3 days, which I attempted to relate yesterday to my viewing audience. And again, congratulations if you made it this far. And I'm no longer going to thank my audience like some sycophant or fairy. If you're watching me, it's because you want the goods. You're sick of what's going on in pseudoscience. So let me start presenting science the way it's supposed to be presented. And let me begin with modern technology and whirligigs that dazzle you with basically 0.5 second image sequences, which in a science presentation can be extended to like 5 or 10 seconds of some image of a face like Einstein or Lawrence or something like that. None of that here. This is going to be purely verbal. I'm not going to show you anything from GeoGebra. And I'm not going to show you anything from Wikipedia. Well, I might do that from time to time, because it's good to get diagrams. Diagrams can help, because those are the same things that a Greek might draw in the dirt, okay? Or even a 19th century professor could draw on a blackboard. So anything that can be drawn by the human hand in real time before real, actual, face-on human beings, anything that can be done that way, I will do. But as for trying to impress you, no. You're not here to be impressed or entertained, okay? That's my rule. And I've always abided by that, but I lately started to become a lick spittle. It's like I have this penis envy or whatever it's called, where you just envy guys like Lex Friedman, and I could go on, but Lex Friedman's really the king. Now, I'm human, and I really like being entertained, and I've watched Lex Friedman. Well, not anymore, but I have watched Lex Friedman. He had on, every night, about 1 out of 100 of his guests is a genuine scientist. The rest are just crackpots. And let's start out right there to just talk about what YouTube does, okay? What a YouTube science presenter is. Not what I'm doing, but what a YouTube, modern science YouTube presenter is. It's cartoon time. And this ranges the whole gamut. The most maturity, and I'll use my American, this is a statistical judgment, so don't think I have some thing against Americans. What I have a thing against is stupidity and obduracy. Because that's what a scientist is supposed to correct. That's the guiding influence of a true scientist. Well, I don't see any. I literally see the opposite. I see everything that I cherish and everything that traditional science and wisdom has cherished being traduced and lampooned. Either passively or now it's actively. You see these jackasses. I hate to state names because I can't name them all. But just to give you a fucking famous example is Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins has been around for decades. In a well-run scientific society, he would have been executed by now. That man is actually satanic. And he's not alone. No, there's safety in numbers. And I'll tell you exactly the sins of Lex Friedman. But I want to make clear, because this is important in a human sense. These men are faces, okay? They've put themselves out on the media to become what they are. But off screen, in real life, he does jujitsu. He teaches people. He used to, I think he was a teaching assistant at MIT. So Lex Friedman is no slouch. And he also projects himself as a puppy lover. I mean, he projects himself as a genuine, I'll just say, civilized faggot. He's a humanist. He wants to be known as a humanist. But you see, here's the problem between Lex Friedman, the man, whom I love. I love this guy. He's a Russian Jew, and I'm not saying anything political or cultural. Well, cultural, yes, because I love Russians. I love some Jews. You gotta be careful when you say that you love the Jews. Because, let's start there. There's nothing wrong with Lex Friedman, and as such, from his heritage, like Einstein was a Jew. A lot of people are Jews. But, if you check to see the balance of the population, what percentage of the human population is Jewish? I mean, this statistic, I just looked it up again yesterday just to check. Well, actually, it came up by accident. Jews are like the tiniest percentage of humans are Jews. And yet, when you check the list of billionaires in Russia and in Ukraine and in Israel, those three nations are allied, by the way. At the governmental level, that's one nation. Russia, Ukraine, and Israel are the same nation. And the headquarters is in Israel. And Israel runs the United States. I don't know if you're aware of that. But the reason I bring this up is not to just, let's go off on some goddamn pseudo-philosophical political rant. No. It's just to give you perspective. Because Lex is a human, okay? I really believe that. If I were with him and I were talking with him, I wouldn't be talking about any of this stuff. I'd be admiring the guy and getting along with him. I get along with everybody. But I'm now a face on the screen, I know. I'm just showing you I'm not stoned. Actually, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's just that I woke up and I've learned when I first wake up and I turn this on, it's like, because I have a productive time when I wake up because of dream time. Although I had a weird dream about being chased last night. Every now and then I have to run across borders, like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like I'm James Bond in my dreams. But whatever. Lex Friedman is two people, as indeed I am two people. Because when you're on media, you're not a human. You're not face-to-face with another human. You can't feel their magnetic or heat aura or look into their eyes and see their pimples twitching. You can't. And you can't talk back to them. So what Lex Friedman, as a scientist, and I shouldn't even say that, although there's really, it's easy to get into detail and get lost in like, well, let's make sure we know what word this is. Lex Friedman is he's a passive tool of an industry that's way, way over his head. Now, his level of success can be measured in money. And if you want to know how much money Lex is making, all you have to do is look at his subscribership. That's a number showing how many people want to hear more from Lex. Well, they're not tuning in to learn science. Nobody who tunes in to science channels on YouTube is there to learn science. Scientists, such as myself, I'm using myself as the metric for this, the standard meter of what is a scientist, you're looking at him. I'm the best there is. And I can say that absolutely authoritatively now. And I've learned, and this is part of what I'm trying to tell you, I need to be forthright with you about what I'm doing and who I am. I am not like I'm not like anybody out on YouTube. They're not presenting science. Well, it's like if you go to a circus, are you there to learn about tigers? No, you're not there to learn about tigers. Except for what they can be trained in a Pavlovian way to do under the cruel influence of human masters. Well, Lex is basically a monkey. He's just a trained monkey. The carrot is money and, I don't know, a combination of fame and pseudo-love. He's all about, like, he had on Netanyahu. You know who Netanyahu is? He's the head of the Israeli government right now, and so is directly, voluntarily, and willfully responsible for ongoing genocide, which is going on right now. Netanyahu is directly responsible for murdering children every day. Now, you could, like, if you were a real politician, you would immediately try a segue or really a red herring if you like Israel. And a lot of people do like Israel. If you like Israel, it's because you're a fairy. Or worse, you're a faggot. You're an idiot. You don't know it, you're not a scientist. The dividing line here is, I'm doing science, but nobody else is. I am doing science, and nobody else is. So I've already defined that, and if you don't know that instinctively by now, you really need to go somewhere else. If you're watching me, it's because you actually made it. You're at least willing, and that's all I ask. I mean, that's all any presenter can ask. Is if you're willing, you just keep part of your mind open. You don't open the doors to just anybody. Even as it says in the Song of Solomon, you don't just spread your legs for anybody. Not in sex and not in the universe either, okay? You can forget about the gay movement. You know what I like now about the gay movement? I get along with gays. I've even been propositioned by gays, and then they say, well, I don't do swinger parties, and we continue to be friends. So it's not like I'm like foaming at the mouth at the Jews or the gays or anything. But I am distancing myself against a hideous and very, very deceptive reality. What passes for science today is absolutely reprehensible. And Lex Friedman is guilty, absolutely guilty. Richard Dawkins at least comes out and says, "Hi kids, my name is Richard Dawkins and I talk with a beautiful Oxford accent, and I'll prove to you in this interview," he's done millions of interviews, "I'll prove to you that I'm a cultured man that you can just trust as if I were your uncle, and you can jump up into Uncle Richard Dawkins' lap and he won't try to finger you or do something mean to you. And then you trust him. Oh, good, Uncle Richard Dawkins is going to tell us about science because he's an educated man that could even fool Great Uncle Sam in Chico if Great Uncle Sam were still 10 years old. But Great Uncle Sam is now close to 70 years old. And Great Uncle Sam, when he sees Richard Dawkins, grabs him by the fucking lapel and pulls him nose to nose, says, "You get close to my kids, Professor Richard Dawkins, I'll fucking knock your head right off of your goddamn shoulders, you faggot." Because Richard Dawkins is a faggot. That's... I told you I just woke up, okay? So what... So that's the first thing that I wanted to say, to tell you. I've made some decisions. I'm not gonna start trying to be like these guys. I'll tell you what did this for me. Is yesterday I went to one of my favorite presenters, and this guy is something else. His name is Destin, and I actually looked up his name because I think I love this guy. He's a redneck, and he said so in front of NASA coordinators. So this guy is actually an engineer that makes rockets that he fires at tanks. for the government. So this guy's in the industry, but he's just a down-home redneck. And the name of his channel, if you'd like to tune in, I swear to God, you won't regret watching this guy. It's called Smarter Every Day. But I'm looking at this latest video, which was about the so-called resumption of the Apollo mission. They're trying to revive the Apollo mission to go back to the moon. Don't get me started on that, but he's in favor of it because he's a true American. I can't help but love this guy. I really think this guy's the right stuff. But as far as him furthering science, absolutely not. He's basically an army brat. I told you I get along with anybody, and I love the entire spectrum of humanity, but where I'm forced to draw the line, because I am I took a vow, that's why I wear the robe, of science, with the highest form of science, which nobody does except me. I know there must be others who are trying to make progress in real... What do I mean by real science? Okay, it's natural philosophy. Natural philosophy, which is the conjunction, it's the running together of two streams called religion and rational logic. Where those two meet in a human, you're going to find out who they really are. And you yourself will find out who you really are by examining yourself honestly. Where do you stand religiously? Now, most people instantly think of God. Don't think that way. When I say look at yourself religiously, be brutally honest with yourself and just make sure that you go through this process. Wise men go through this process all the time, and I can tell you that for obvious reasons. Oh, I know I'm running off in different directions, but I think you see, let me just draw this. Let's make a clean division here. So the first thing I wanted to say is, no diagrams, okay. Let me try that again. First of all, no technology. Whatever I want to tell you is something that I could tell in front of a stadium-sized audience in Australia with no microphone, okay? Just like a famous speaker who was actually a woman, and this was back in the early 20th century. There was a famous woman from America who, because of her projection, her ability to speak and sway an audience, like Billy Graham. She was really kind of like Billy Graham. And she went to Australia because she was a famous speaker, and people who knew about this woman in Australia invited her there, and she spoke without a microphone. There were no microphones when she spoke, I think. And this enormous crowd, this enormous audience in a giant stadium is just like being back in Roman times, with some guy in the middle of the stadium, down there on the field where the gladiators knock each other's heads off, standing there addressing the Roman crowd, "My people," or "Veni, Vidi, Vici," or something like that. She stood there and absolutely owned that crowd. She could have led them off either to commit suicide or go anywhere when she was done talking with them. But she didn't use projectors. She didn't have 2-second image segments or multiple images just flashing all over the place like you see on all these presenters' programs. Well, not all. But what I realized when I was watching Smarter Every Day is that, first of all, I'm a fun-loving guy just like everyone else. I need my diversions. I'll watch UFC, I'll watch mixed martial arts and watch men just bloody each other's faces. I no longer feel any guilt, but I always feel a little... it's like when you're done having illicit sex, there's a phase afterward where you're smoking the cigarette, and you're just kind of like darting your eyes around in a convicted fashion, because you just fucking sold part of your soul down the river that you're never going to get it back. but you needed it, so you continue to smoke your cigarette. You slap that bitch out of bed and tell her to haul her ass out and start earning a living and bring the money back to me while I lie there in bed and probably beat off. That's real life. But that's not what we're supposed to do in science. That's just what we do in our spare time when we're still being juvenile delinquents. I think we all need that. I'm dead serious. I'm just saying, if you're going to do that, kids, just don't break any of the laws of God or man, and try not to sell too much of yourself down the river. Because if you sell too much of it down the river, you won't get most of it back. You just be a retard the rest of your life. Yeah, I guess I fucked myself in my teens, and now this is just, if you can see the person's real face, who they really are inside, that's what they look like now. I guess I probably took too much meth, and I fucked all those women who weren't my wife, and there was one married woman, so then, you're like, well, Charlie, that's quite a story, Why don't you play a card and I'll raise you $50, Charlie. And you're back to real life. That's not what we do in science. Well, I'm not here to be a pansy like Lex Friedman. Nobody owns me. No, money does not run my life. You want to know what runs my life? I don't think you have far to look, especially at night, to know what runs my life, okay? So I am here to better, humanity, but yes, just as that woman who spoke in Australia was trying to better humanity, it turns out she was actually serving Satan. Her name was Ellen G. White, and she's the prophetess of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And you're like, oh my God! Well, here's the real bad news. It's confession time. I served that goddamn church for close to 15 years. And I was Ellen White at one time, except I actually didn't know anything about her doctrine. The Seventh-day Adventists worship her. And they all have, if you go into a Seventh-day Adventist home, you won't have to look around long until you see a gigantic bookcase of Ellen G. White's writings. Okay, I think that might be enough for the first half. Now to go to the second half. Just to sum up what I just said, I am just going to talk, and I am going to present science the way I know it should be presented, and I'll bring in diagrams, but no GeoGebra, no geometric algebra using Jupyter, Python interfaces, no flashing lights, no men's faces to give you a visual idea of what Lagrange looked like or some bullshit. I'm going to do what science has always done since before the time of the Greeks. I'm going to talk to you so that you can assimilate, first of all, knowledge, but I'm after higher game. I want you to gain understanding, but so far that makes me no higher than a presenter, such as a lecturer or a professor. Which is nothing wrong with these things, except if you look around, everything is wrong with these things today. Nobody is doing real science. So that's what I do. And if you're tuned in, that's why you're tuned in, or you're tuned in for the wrong reason. You're not going to get what you want from me unless you're looking for salvation. I'm talking about scientific zenith. To reach the goals that science to this day has not even defined ever. Nobody has ever tried, or even tried, to define what science is for ultimately. Well, I can tell you what that is. It's wisdom. It's to integrate, that's not a word, integrate your two sides. Because you have an emotional side that's dominant 99% of the time, and that's supposed to be run on love and fun. Love and fun. Those are irrational concepts. But we have another side that comes online for a real man. So when I say faggot or fairy, and this is what I wanted to say about the gay movement. The gay movement is valuable because it's science. You're seeing these guys who do stuff with each other that you're not supposed to do. And let's face it, you're not supposed to do it. But they do it. The men will kiss. I was forced to see it once in my life, and, you know, you try to understand, you just back away and you just try to shake it off, go get a six-pack and try to forget what you just saw. But you'll never respect those men again because they're faggots. Faggots aren't going to make it. But I'll tell you what the Lord says about faggots when he's looking at his real enemies. Faggots are not the enemies of God, okay? They're the enemies of themselves. They're only hurting themselves. Although I don't get into this part, but you need to keep them away from your children for obvious reason. Although I wouldn't, but I would definitely keep my children away from Richard Dawkins. If Richard Dawkins ever were to come into my home and I had like people that were under my protection, and Richard Dawkins, I invited him there to have a scientific conversation with me, I'd lay down the law. I'd point to the rack of guns on the wall, and I'd say, the last guy that said that my children are descended from monkeys, he was chased off my property with one of those things with deer buckshot in it. So, Richard, you're not going to even mention your goddamn fucking religion about monkeys in my home, or I will fucking show you MMA right here and now with your face down on the floor, bloody, and my knee going into your skull over and over until you're unconscious enough that I can drag you off my property and then sick the hounds on you. Okay, Richard Dawkins, fucking faggot? See my point now? I get along with gays, and I have nothing against them, but as a movement, you're looking at science. Science is effeminate now. It's no longer yang. Rather than say masculine, you could say yang. The heavenly principle, chin. That's from the I Ching. Okay, so that's 27 minutes. Now to get to the second half so we can close this off in a half an hour and be solid on this. You're very blessed right now to be listening to me. And I am not blessed by you in any way. I get nothing from you, and I want nothing from you. I'm doing this to further myself, and I'm succeeding. I am the happiest man in the world because I've pleased God. I've done what I was supposed to do in this life. Everything else from now on is just gravy. I made it, but I'm going to share it with you. Because while we have our feet on the ground here, Yeshua told us what we're supposed to do with each other. You love your neighbor as if he were yourself. What would you do for yourself if you could be someone benefiting you? What would I do for you if I thought of you as myself, just exactly what I'm doing? To the best of my ability. If you were right in front of me on the sidewalk with your hand out and wanted money, I'd put $2 into your hand. That's the standard amount I give the hobos. $2. Because one just looks like, but three is a little much. I mean, you start to run out of money. But if you give $2, it gives a message to the hobo, who in this case is you. So I am expressing love at its optimal for our circumstances. I'm giving you the best that I have. It's not my opinion. My opinion is worthless. Even I don't pay attention to my opinions. I don't trust my opinions. I have them, but I don't act on them. What I act on is purely on the principle of wisdom. But that's only one half. Wisdom is rational, but love is irrational. And that's called superposition. We're two people, but we're not split. The whole idea is to unify wisdom and love. And I could go on, because I'm a scriptural scholar, I could talk for the next 6 hours straight and give you pure wisdom based on what I just said about wisdom and love, right from Scripture, by which I mean the wisdom books, by which I mean the 4 wisdom books, other than the Psalms, which are written by the killer named David. But the book, the Psalms, is also among the wisdom books, because not just the killer, David, is portrayed in the Psalms. They're not just his Psalms. There's some Psalms in the Psalms. About 1 out of 50 of the Psalms are wisdom. Okay? I could talk for another 6 hours and pick up tomorrow with another 6 hour. I could do a whole week of 6-hour lectures where you would learn so much of great benefit to you, but none of it would be science. And you would not listen. So I don't do that, not because I don't want to, not because it's not the best thing I could do for you, but because you're retarded. And you are. I know you are. But I'm not here to insult you, and I don't mean you personally. I'm really talking over your shoulder, and to you insofar as I want you to come out of confusion. I don't want you to be part of this madness. I don't want you to believe these men who are coming forward and saying, science has proved that God doesn't exist. Richard Dawkins says God is an idiot, just flips him off. Gets in with Ricky Gervais, one of the greatest comedians. He's a rabid faggot. He actually is a faggot. But I only mean that politically. He hates God. But he's only doing it to make a buck. It could be that when he's done, butt fucking with Richard Dawkins, and they're done, humping each other. Listen, audience, they do this to get money. They butt fuck for money. So Richard Dawkins is the opposite of a scientist. He's an anti-scientist. He hates scientists because he hates wisdom. And if you hate all of these things like wisdom, science, rational logic, you're willing to teach kids that they're from monkeys, which is just satanic information, just nonsense. If you're willing to do that, you're serving Satan. Well, if he were in front of me, I'd be in reverence and awe of Richard Dawkins, the man, give him a second chance, but also pointing at the rack of guns on my wall. And as for Ricky Gervais, you're a very funny man, but if you start showing any sign of atheism in my home, I will bloody your fucking nose, and if you talk back to me then, I'll knock you out and drag you off my property and sick the hounds on you, Ricky faggot Gervais. Now Lex Friedman, what he does that's wrong, and then we're going to end this. What he does that's wrong is he's trying to make peace. He's trying to say, no, this isn't Satan worship. And we all have to love each other like we're all just licking each other's faces like tender, loving puppies. And then he gets on Netanyahu. And a jack-in-the-box like Yudkowsky, who says that machines are definitely alive. They're either alive or they're just about to come to life, and they need civil rights. The civil rights of electrons, little children are monkeys, not in my house, no, you don't. You go butt fuck each other on your own time and have the jackasses, faggot America, pay you to do it. Because they're bored out of their minds, they're scared to death, and they have never come to grips with oblivion. Well, even the Jew, Larry King, is smarter than you. All right. That's the end of my rant. I told you I just woke up. As soon as I wake up, I consume 3 drugs. Tea, I have tea, and then tobacco, because I'm addicted, I know. I told you I'm human, okay? Has nothing to do with what I'm going to tell you in science. But you're seeing the old professor when he just woke up on the coldest freaking night of the year. Thank God for the cat. Not only that, she's outside right now because, cats need to go outside sometimes. But she sleeps with me even though it's killing me because I need love. But I'm not a faggot. So I kitty love. It's not pussy love. It's kitty love, okay? I love to have fun. I think I should be a comedian, except not today. But anyway, this is the best I can do for you or anyone else. I'm doing my best to reveal wisdom. So you can share in the most fun a man can have. And in the upcoming lecture, I'm going to be showing you the secret of quantum mechanics that nobody has ever seen. But I'm not going to use GeoGebra. I made a mistake in promising that. And I was actually called up on it by one of my commentators. It's like, I've seen your previous GeoGebra presentations and you really didn't get across what you were trying to say, and I already know that he's right. So I'm still struggling because I want to love, I want to express love, but I noticed I'm starting to become compromised. There's no need for that. It's time for me to stand up and say what's right. Just say what's right and wrong. And not wrong anymore. I'm just going to say what's right, but I'm going to say it the right way. No flashy commercial like, make you drool and turn into a living slinky. God, I'm learning science, honey. And your honey is like, well, at least he's not watching porn. He'd be better off watching porn. This is Anagalactic, about to bring to you the most amazing scientific synthesis of all time. And if you think that makes me megalomaniac, it certainly does, and I deal with it all the time. This is how I deal with it. I don't run away. I face... I'm like, when I first met my Ukrainian wife when she was 18, and we got married, we had to wait a couple of years because, first of all, you have to court. But then she lived about 7,000 miles away, so that was a problem. But when I first met her, she had a chipped tooth, and so she wouldn't smile. When she'd go to laugh, because I was always trying to make her laugh, because to hear her laugh was really something. And she loved me too, obviously, but she died of cancer when she was 28. So we did have 10 years together. But when I first met her, she had one of her two front incisors had a big diagonal chip. And Ukrainian women are very sensitive about their appearance because they're real women, okay? Not like American hags. They're real women. And so since she had a diagonal, when she did smile, and I did see it from time to time, I thought it was cute because I'm kind of Japanese that way. It's like, I have this mole right here. Yeah. Well, so did Marilyn Monroe, darling. I like your mole because it's part of you. Well, she has a chipped tooth, or had, but after a couple of years of us being married, and she was working in the United States by then, we had enough money. I said, would you like to have your tooth fixed? And she said, oh, yes. And so let's do that. And she had it fixed. And it was just a few weeks later, and I'm going to get emotional, but she started smiling with all of her teeth for the first time in her adult life. My sister noticed that too. Ever since Irina got her front tooth fixed, she grins widely instead of trying to hide. Well, I do that now because of my snuff, because if I... Ah, ha, 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 ha. So I am human. But I do have the secrets of the universe. And if you don't like it, I think you know what you can do. You know what? Here's what you can do. Someone told me this yesterday, a great joke. Read between the lines. I didn't get it at first. He was like 10 paces away trying to control his laughter because he held this up to my face because he knew I'd like it. And he said, because I said something like, you got to read between the lines. And he said, yeah, read between the lines. And I'm like, huh? But if he had done this, I might have gotten it faster. Read between the lines. What is between the lines? So now if I want to flip someone off, I've decided, I made this decision. This is serious. It's like, well, you know where you come from? They're like, what? Because we're having a face-off fight or flight, and I'm like, not flying anywhere. I'm gonna fight you right now if that's what you think you're gonna get me to run. You know what? Here's where you come from. You see these two things? Hey, what? What do you mean? This is a sperm and an egg, and you're half in this one and half in this one. And in order for you to become you, they have to drop one of their chromosomal strands and then wrap themselves around each other. And by then, if he's not like, then I've just got to punch him right in the fucking nose. Metaphorically speaking. This is Anagalactic. 40 minutes. We'll be right back with you. Couple of days. I'll have this together. It'll probably be later today, because I can't wait. I'm too excited. I want to give you your Christmas present early. You'll be the first humans, besides myself, to ever actually know what the quantum is, and it's not going to be a paradox for you. It will be forever. Science cannot accept this kind of information because it's understanding. That's why I say that the American scientific community is pure satanic faggotry. And you can take that to the bank, share that with your loved ones. You know what, by the way, I'm not any longer Uncle Sam, which I've trademarked, and the United States can do that. I'm Great Uncle Sam, because I'm a great uncle now, and so you may address me that way from now on. You're going to get the secrets of the universe to guide you to heaven right with your feet still here on the ground from Great Uncle Sam, also known as Drake Sterling, which is my undercover name. I was a spy in Ukraine, let us not forget that. And I married the Princess of Ukraine. There's two sides to that. Because whatever you love on this earth, including your wife or your puppy is going to get cancer and die. So just remember that while you're kissing and smooching and petting with your puppy, sticking your finger up wherever you think the puppy's going to like. I'm just saying puppy because I'm talking to a faggot American audience. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.